Hello everyone, thank you so much for joining me here today. If you're new, I'm Amanda. Welcome to the channel where we are all about shattering the mental health stigma. If you haven't already, make sure you make sweet love to that subscribe button so you aren't missing any of these vlogs about my mental health journey, any of my song reactions pertaining to mental health, or any of my celebrity interviews about their mental health journeys. I know that a lot of you are worried about me after my last vlog, and I'm not gonna lie, it's been a difficult past couple of weeks, but that's part of our journeys, right? Not everything is rainbows and sunshine, even when we are healing, even when we're on the right path, even when we know we're in a good place, but our brain and our emotions and our heart is just kind of, well, you know what? I'm feeling heavy. I'm feeling like there's a lot going on and I need some time to reflect. I need some time to relax. I need some time to recenter a little bit. So that's where I've been. I have definitely just been in a place where I don't know what's next. I don't know particularly what I'm gonna do. I don't know a lot of things, but that's okay because I'm good right here, right now. And I wanted to come on here because in my reflecting, I mentioned this in my vlog that was right after my divorce trial where I was breaking down in the bathtub. And I'm not gonna lie, there's still a lot of emotion surrounding this, and it's been a challenge to navigate through that. It's very confusing, it's very heartbreaking, it's very emotional in general. So there's been a lot of different things going on, but I did mention maybe I would come on here and share some of my lessons that I have learned during this time. And story time again, I did write down some of the things that I've learned from my marriage and subsequently my divorce, and hopefully it gives you guys some insight. I know this is something that at least half of you have been through, considering the divorce rate is currently unfortunately at 50%-ish here in the US. I know it's something a lot of people go through, and I just want to hopefully offer some insight. You guys saw the raw emotion when I was coming out of that situation, when I had freshly just gone through hearing your marriage is dissolved. So I definitely want to be able to offer some insights from the other side of that. Well, not the other side, but from the journey itself. So I am going to share with you some of the lessons I have learned during my marriage and divorce. Number one, someone can have many wonderful qualities and be kind and generous and still not be good for me. The only things I can do in a relationship is communicate my needs, listen to theirs, and be the best version of myself. If you're truly happy and neither working on yourself or communicating your needs and feelings improves the situation, the right and moral choice is to leave. The things that are most important to me in a relationship, and that I personally think is the foundation for a healthy relationship, is communication, patience, respect, empathy, and friendship. A tough love or irritated tone from my partner is my absolute worst trigger. And I didn't know about that. I didn't know that about myself before. I just don't respond well to that. Some people do. Some people have different needs, and that's okay. But for me, I don't deal well with tough love. That's not something that works for me. If that works for you, then that is fine. I know a lot of people that are motivated. And in other situations, actually, sometimes I am motivated by that. But when it comes to relationships, interpersonal relationships, not even just romantic ones, but just interpersonal relationships in general, I don't really deal well with that. Fear isn't only a response to the prospect of physical abuse. You can be afraid just because you're afraid of getting in another argument. You're afraid of doing something to hurt that other person. I had gotten to a point where I was constantly afraid. My partner didn't understand why, because he never hurt me. He never had done anything physical to me, but it had just gotten to the point where I was constantly on eggshells. I was constantly afraid that I was going to upset him or hurt him or do something wrong. I was afraid of another argument. I was afraid of dysregulating emotionally myself because that brought a lot of guilt and shame and depression. Maybe not clinical depression, but feelings of depression. So that was a big lesson to me, that we can be afraid when there's not a physical threat. I can find someone who I can have an incredible friend bond with that I can't be in a romantic relationship with. This one's a hard one for a lot of people to understand because it goes against the things that we are conditioned to believe, but love isn't hard, nor does it hurt when a relationship is healthy. I do think that a certain amount of work goes into maintaining a healthy friendship or relationship, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's hard. I don't think that it's hard. I don't think that it's an uncomfortable amount of work. I think that that just comes naturally, and that kind of work, it's like a labor of love. It's not depleting you to put forth that work in a healthy relationship. If being around someone makes your mind race and your heart pound and your palms sweaty after the new partner phase, that's not love, it's anxiety. I learned actually several really great things about myself from my ex that I also included in this list. I learned how valuable and attainable my dreams and goals are because my ex was very supportive of these things and is an amazing person. I hope that we can still continue to support each other in our goals and our personal goals and dreams. But in that sense, he really did build me up and made me realize how attainable and valuable these things are. He showed me that I don't give up on things easily. I am one of those people that if something doesn't work, especially now, I wasn't always that way, but now I am that type of person that if something doesn't work, try again, or try a different way, or try asking someone for help, or try adjusting things, or you can always try in a different way. You can always try again because most successful people don't get it right the first time. And despite the fact that I'm speaking out about divorce right now, that might seem kind of confusing given this statement that I don't give up on things easily. But even this, I fought and I tried and I really put my heart and soul into it for a very, very long time. So it's not like I just said, hey, this isn't working, I'm out. I really did put a lot of energy and effort into it, and I hope that he knows that. Mistakes, even big ones, or ones we regretfully repeat, aren't always malicious. So we might think that if someone does something to hurt us, or if somebody does something and it hurts us, that they meant to hurt us. But there are many times where it's so much deeper than that. There's such a deeper psychological reasoning behind it, or maybe one person just isn't completely healthy mentally, and they make decisions based on this altered state. And that doesn't make these decisions okay, but just knowing that they're not malicious allows us to better empathize with the other party. Life and relationships are about personal growth. Someone can help you grow, but the person you grow into might not be compatible with them. If you are consistently relying emotionally on someone besides your partner, it is a red flag. And this includes friends. If you're constantly reaching out to even a girlfriend or someone of the same sex, like your best friend, if you're constantly reaching out to someone else for emotional support regarding your relationship, that's a red flag. Because of course we all talk to our friends or our sisters or family members or whatever. We all talk to someone about our situation because sometimes it's really nice to get a third party opinion. Sometimes it's really nice to have someone that's not in the situation that can see from a different perspective. But if we're constantly relying on someone else to get our emotional needs met, that is a huge red flag to the relationship or marriage. This one is probably the hardest one for me to accept because I am very much that person that wants to believe in Prince Charming and true love and fairy tales and happily ever after. Love doesn't conquer all. That hurts even to say because I really always wanted to believe in that idea, in that concept, because it's romantic, right? And I wanted to believe in that romanticized ideal. But at the end of the day, you can love someone and that's not going to be enough. And that's okay. That doesn't mean you're not enough. That just means that for whatever reason, you guys aren't compatible. Never trust another person over your intuition. And that's not to be confused with your ego or libido. I think that a lot of times, and I know a lot of people have been through this, you realize that a relationship or a friendship or whatever isn't working, and you tell them, this isn't working for me, and they'll talk you out of it. They'll talk you out of it not working. And sometimes they point out the things that you could be doing better. And even if you adjust those, maybe you do, maybe you don't, there's something deeper going on for you. And again, I know that sometimes we aren't thinking clearly, and it is nice to have another person's perspective, and that's why it's really nice to have third-party perspectives like a professional or a friend. But at the same time, if your intuition is screaming that something is wrong, don't allow someone else to talk you out of it. If you really genuinely in your heart don't believe that a situation is happy or safe for you, then you need to get out of it, because people that are abusive or narcissistic, and I'm not saying this was my situation, but people that are in those kinds of situations, unfortunately, the partner that's perpetuating the abuse is extremely charming, is extremely convincing, and to be frank, is extremely manipulative and can keep you staying over and over and over. So it's very important to connect to your intuition. You may have to lose yourself to find yourself. And I know that sounds a little Deepak Chopra, but I really had to fall apart. I really had to hit rock bottom to start questioning, to start being curious again. I know we were talking about connecting to that kid, that inner child, in one of our last reactions. And I think that when you lose yourself, you kind of revert to that, and you start reconnecting to that, and you start reconnecting to the innocence and the person you were before the world got a hold of you. And that's something that I've been able to reconnect with, and it's really amazing and beautiful. I'm getting to really check in with that again, and I like it. I like not having to be serious all the time, not having to be afraid of something all the time, not having to adult all the time. God, adulting is so exhausting. They don't tell you this. Every time I hear kids that are, I just wish I was grown up. No, you don't. No, you just enjoy it. Enjoy it while you're there, because in 10 years you'll be wishing you were back there again. But I absolutely had to lose my identity and not have any idea who I was or what I liked. Nothing brought me joy anymore. I had to get to that rock bottom to really start being curious and finding myself again. Being alone doesn't always equate being lonely, and being with someone doesn't always equate comfort. So I know that it's very common in our society that we perpetuate this idea that if we're alone, then we're not valuable. We're not worthy of love. We're not worthy of another person. But being alone doesn't need to equate being lonely. There's a lot of beautiful things that you can do and discover when you're alone, and a lot of self-exploration that you can do when you're alone that you just can't get in a relationship. And I think some of the best times of my life as far as feeling unstoppable was when I was alone. And it didn't start like that. I mean, there was time where I just cried myself to sleep and absolutely fell apart. But when I look back at that time in general, I had come so far. Because when my mom passed away back in 2007, I was so codependent, I literally could not go to a job. I had panic attacks when my partner went to work. I couldn't be separated from them. It was really unhealthy, like very, very, very unhealthy. And I know that in retrospect now, but I was just so afraid. And when you're letting fear control you like that, when you're letting fear take the wheel, you have no opportunity to live. You have no opportunity to connect with yourself. And I know that in my relationship, it got to the point where being around that person wasn't comforting anymore. So even though I wasn't alone, I also didn't feel comforted. I didn't feel emotionally safe or connected. So it still felt very lonely and isolating. While big gestures are amazing, it is the day-to-day interaction that defines a relationship. I am so grateful for all of the amazing things that my ex did. He was so, like I said, supportive and so thoughtful, and had done so many things for me as far as big romantic gestures, as far as helping me complete bucket list items, as far as just going on these amazing adventures. We were amazing when it came to doing that for each other. We were really go big or go home type people. And as a matter of fact, there were several legal situations that I found myself in that he helped me out of, that he, even though he's not a lawyer, then now I call him my Saul, because I've been watching Breaking Bad. No spoilers, I'm still not finished. But he is that very important person in my team, in my world, in my life, but it just wasn't enough, you know, because it was the day-to-day interactions that really make a relationship. Happily ever after is one day at a time. And that isn't in this list, but that's probably one of the most important lessons that I've ever learned in my entire life, is happily ever after is this moment, this hour, this day. What can we do right now to be happy, to be living that happily ever after? Because it's a time frame, right? Happily ever after is a time frame, and a time frame is made up of minutes, of instances, of days. So happily ever after is one day at a time, and that's where it has to start. There has to be an ability to balance each other and de-escalate each other. Everybody gets upset, everybody gets sad, everybody gets angry, everybody loses their mind sometimes. And I think when you're in a healthy relationship or marriage, you naturally tend to de-escalate the other person has the tendency to de-escalate you. When I'm with my friends, when I'm talking to my friends, that just comes naturally. We just de-escalate each other when we're talking. I don't get more upset when I'm talking to my friends. I might get pretty fired up for a while, but within minutes, I'm always at least somewhat calmer. Even in the most absolutely traumatic, horrific situations, the people that I'm close to, just, we have a natural ability to de-escalate each other. And I think that that is really super important, because if you don't have that, things get out of control. It plays back to communication, but if you don't have that, things spiral out of control. And the last one is the power of logic and knowledge. Because while I've always been super thirsty for knowledge and wisdom, and I love to learn, and I love to grow, and I love to just find out new things and new cultures and new ways of life and new facts, I really enjoy that. It's something that really brings me a lot of fulfillment. However, I think predominantly with my emotional brain. I am the person that back in 2018, when I found out that Mike Shinoda was going to be doing a concert in California and the first 100 people got to meet him, it was literally, I'm gonna be at that concert. I did not think about how am I going to pay my bills if I buy this ticket and fly there. I didn't think about any of that. My emotional brain took over, and I knew I have to be at that concert. I am the type of person that I very much get extremely over the top excited about things, and when I do get in that role, when I get in that mindset, it's very, very hard for me to think logistically. And honestly, it's kind of one of my favorite traits about myself, but my ex taught me about the power and the value of logic and knowledge, and how we can harness that to really blend well and work well with our emotional sides. When we have a balance of both of those things, it's not a hindrance, it's a help. And I know that that's really difficult. He was extremely logistical and I was extremely emotional, but I did learn a lot from him about the power of being logistical. And I hope that he learned about the power of being emotional, because I think that there has to be a balance there. So that is my lessons. I don't know how many there were. I know usually it's 25 lessons or 30 lessons or 10 lessons. I don't know how many there were, but I just wanted to share some of my personal insights and experiences through this situation. Like I said, always good, bad, and crazy. Share your stories here. I know a lot of people are going to relate to this. Maybe you can share some of your insights through your marriage or divorce, some of the positive things that you learned going through this process, either about yourself, about marriage in its own entity. Let me know what you learned. Let me know about your mental health story. That's how we shatter the stigma. So pop down into the comments. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Share it. You never know who might need to see it. Make sweet, sweet love to that subscribe button if you haven't already. And I love you guys so, so, so much. Mwah.